Well, hello again. We are honored to be with Aron Lipkin of Lipkin Tours here in Ofra, which is in Samaria. And Aron Lipkin is my guest, and I'm honored to be here with him. And so, Aron, you have been involved in hosting tours, and a lot of Christian tours for a number of years. Why don't you please explain to us how you got started in the tour industry, and what your vision is and objectives are with bringing Christians here into a part of Israel that a lot of tours, they don't take people to where you take people, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, Judea and Samaria, probably one of the most important geographical areas in Israel,
Yes.
are not visited by tourists at all, and especially Bible-believing tourists, Christians or Jews. And that's really sad, but
It's tragic,
we'll talk about that later on. What got me in tourism? When I was 16 years old, I participated in a program called Shorashim, where young Israeli high school, 11th graders, and they're the same age from the U.S., from Chicago, come together in Israel for a tour of 3 or 4 weeks. And when I participated in that tour, first of all, I saw Israel like I've never seen it before, personally.
Of course, coming you'd see it like never before.
But seeing it, not just through my eyes, but through the eyes of the American Jewish high school friends, to really appreciate Israel through them. Because when they come to a place like Mount Herzl, for example, and they see the tombs, the graves of the soldiers that gave their lives for the state of Israel,
Right.
And they're so amazed by it, you're saying, wow, they're amazed by it. I should even be more amazed by it.
Exactly.
And so that program really changed my life in many ways. But it gave me this understanding that a visit to Israel, a visit to the land of Israel, is not just like a visit to Paris or London.
No, sir.
This is a life-changing experience. This really, it does a couple of things. First of all, it makes order in your life, in your identity. And then it also brings up questions that it makes you challenged. It brings you to a place where you have to try and settle things, to understand what's the right thing, how to do things. And I think that's the power of the land of Israel. It's something that it's unexplainable.
It's a spiritual
It's the spirit of the land.
Exactly
yes.
right. Exactly right.
And these friends that I met as a 16-year-old are still very good friends of mine, and we're still in touch. And so that really brought me to the understanding that bringing people to Israel is my mission in life. Making Israel affect the people that I bring here. And I see it not only with Jews, I see it also with Christians. And indeed, the Christian groups that come to Israel, when they go back home, they're different.
Yeah.
Their connection, not just to the Bible and to history and to the land, it's also the connection to the future. It's the connection to redemption. It's seeing God's miraculous work in the land in front of their eyes while they're here, and going back as stronger believers in the Bible, in God, and in redemption.
Now, you mentioned about how people, both Jew and Christian, when they come to the land, they can be changed. Now, when you are bringing people here, one of the things that is so true, Aron, is that the time of the future in the Bible really has a focus within Israel itself. And that's where the Word of God is alive. It's the people returning. It's the nation of Israel rising up. So when you speak about the tours and bringing people to Israel, we know that there's the historical sites that Jesus is commonly associated with, of Nazareth, of Bethlehem. Why is it, do you think, that so many tours do not go to the other places, which is Judea and Samaria, where 70 to 80% of the Bible took place at? Why is that missing? And tell us some of the things that really are life-changing experiences for people on your tours and yourself.
I think that visiting Israel really brings you to a place of humility and modesty. And the reason for that is that when you come to Israel from the U.S., be Jewish or Israel or non-Jewish, you come with preconceptions.
Yeah,
you
true.
think you know what the Bible is,
Yeah.
how things should be.
Yeah.
You think what Israel is, and then you come here, and everything it's just very different.
Very different.
So
Right.
Israel, first of all, brings you to humility, brings you to modesty. And from that point, when you're modest and humble, you can learn, you can absorb.
True.
And so I think that's just objectively, that's what happens to almost everyone that's willing to be open and listen and see in their eyes. Judea and Samaria are the biblical heartland of Israel.
It is the heartland.
I wouldn't say 100% of the stories in the Bible happened here, but I'd say maybe 95%
Yeah, it's
of
huge.
the stories happened here. We're today in Ophrah, my village, and Ophrah is just situated between Shiloh, where the tabernacle stood for almost 470 years.
Right.
You have Bethel, where
Bethel.
Jacob dreamt the dream of the ladder. All of these sites are just, a kilometer away from here, a few kilometers away. Everything you see here is submerged in the Bible. And one of the biggest attractions of Israel is the Bible.
Right.
So you really have to ask, if the Bible happened here, then people that are interested in the Bible, that are believing in the Bible, should also come here.
Yeah.
And it's not happening. Why is it not happening? It's not happening, I believe, because of the Israeli tour agents.
Okay.
The Israeli tour agents that promote and market the tours to Israel see Judea and Samaria as a dangerous place, a place that is a war zone, a place that they don't want to bring people to. And because of that, when they are in touch and market tours to Israel, they don't include Judea and Samaria in the first place as a product that will interest people abroad.
Right.
Lipkin Tours, my tour agency, is really pioneering in this field. Every itinerary that we market to our clients always includes one day in Judea and one day in Samaria.
And that's a minimum, I'm sure.
It's a minimum, and we've been doing it for at least 8 or 9 years. And I have to say that the visit to Judea and Samaria is probably the highlight of the tour. For some reason, again, we spoke about there's something spiritual about Israel. There isn't there's even more something spiritual to Judea and Samaria. The fact that the tabernacle was here, the fact that the prophets walked on these mountains and heard God's voice, is something that is not of the past. I think that it's still something that affects this area.
And it's more alive now, I believe, than ever before, after 2,000 years of coming back to the land.
Right, because when Jeremiah walked here and he said, one day vines will yet be planted
Amen.
in the mountains of Samaria,
We've seen it.
and you're here today and you see those vines that were planted, that really reaffirms the prophecy that, that there's God.
God's alive.
here.
Amen. Amen. Beautiful.
And I think that, I just had a tour with a Christian from the United States, from Texas, and we visited Joshua's altar. And we're sitting on the car, and I start getting to understand what his theology is, what his beliefs are.
Right.
And he's a Lutheran, and he's not dispensational. He doesn't believe that we are in the time of redemption. And I'm really trying to understand how that is possible, because there's the fact that Israel was established, the return of Jewish sovereignty to the land,
Right.
the return of the exiles, the revival of the Hebrew language, the high tech, everything that's happening.
Desert blossoming, so many things.
It's unexplainable. Otherwise,
Right.
there's just no logical explanation to what's going on here. And if you are a Bible believer, if you are a God-fearing person, and you're saying this is not of God, then something's wrong in your theology.
You've got some serious problems. How do you reconcile the two?
I don't know. I think that people who try to evade the reality in the land of Israel are people that have an inner theological problem with what God is doing. If God is bringing the Jewish people back to the land, if there's a restoration, where does that put classic Christianity and replacement theology?
Good question.
And I think that people that are trying to evade that, people that are trying to say that there's no divine providence here, that this is not God's work, then they are. The reason for that is because they are afraid to cope with reality.
Yeah. No, it's sad, but true, Aaron, and that's why we recognize that. As far as myself, with Return of Israel, that we have a message to communicate with the rest of our Christian community, because it's an indisputable fact. It was a miracle of God. When the Jews started coming back from around the world, the nation was established in 1948, and that was all initiated in the last century, largely by Christians that were in the government in Britain, Lord Balfour, David Lloyd George, Shaftesbury, President Harris. And so we as Christians need to recognize there is a part for us to help our Jewish brothers and sisters in the plan of redemption. And so we want to be able to facilitate that. And that's where, Aaron, you've had a lot of experience with Christians. I don't know how that's affected you, but nevertheless, you seem to have a broad vision that, we are both looking for redemption. We're both looking for it to take place in the place God chose, which there is only one place, and that's here in Israel. So, as you referred to, the reasons why some of the tour agents and Christians are not coming to Judea and Samaria is because they're afraid. Why are they afraid? Because of a lack of Israeli government sovereignty in these areas, the land that God gave them, which is part of the restoration, which if that were to take place, it would be safer. It would be more conducive for Christians to come here and tourists to come here. And so, that's where we should be able to work together, Christians and Jews. And how are your experiences in that context with Christian support, with what's happening here in Israel?
Well, I would say that the starting point of every Israeli Jew is to be fearful of Christianity and Christians.
A lot of them are.
It's not something that you're taught in school, but when you learn history and you learn about all the bad things that happened to Jews in Europe in the last 2,000 years,
right,
you kind of get the feeling that Christianity and Christians are not friends of the Jewish people, to say the least. When I was 16 years old, my father was invited to speak in a Christian church in San Antonio, and I came with him, and that really changed my life. For the first time, I saw a Christianity in a different light, a Christianity that doesn't just love Israel and supports the Jewish people, but really sees itself as part of the redemptive plan that's unfolding in front of our eyes.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And since that experience, since the age of 16, my father and I have been lecturing in churches and prophecy conferences in the States about different topics connected to Israel. I specifically speak about archaeology, and specifically the discoveries of Professor Adam Zertal that prove the veracity of the biblical events, especially in the time of Joshua and the Judges. So we've been very much involved in the Christian world. The Christian organizations and churches that bring us to their place see us as strong allies in the redemptive plan, in the plan to get closer to God, to the land of Israel, and to Messiah, whoever he is.
Yeah, exactly right. As some of our Jewish friends have also said, we're both looking for Messiah. And when he's finally here, whether it's first or second, that will be all sorted out. But nevertheless,
right,
we need to see that happen.
Amen.
And there's only one way it's going to happen. Because unequivocally, the covenants of God for Israel are not broken.
Yes.
And that's where, in our Christian theology, we can recognize that God is an unchanging God. What He says, He will do.
Amen.
And here we are in Ophrah. Here we are in the land of Israel. That a century ago was only a dream. That every Jew was praying and speaking of next year in Jerusalem. And so here we are. And may God's work continue to unfold. And may we together just pray and believe and see that redemptive process finish, so that the glory of God that is promised to come from Jerusalem and be a light to all nations will be what it was to be.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Aron. And so you're going to take us on a little tour of Ophrah. And for those of you that are interested, Aron from Lipkin Tours, be glad to host you and not only show you Ophrah, but many other places as well. So let's go for a little tour and have a walk around.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.